Yeah, what it is. Welcome back to another episode of the Big T Debate. I go with the name of Danny Pacheco. And if you're not so familiar with what goes down on this platform, we pretty much just talk about everything related to pop culture and music. And it's so weird for me to transition into talking about pop culture and the likes of just everything within the music game without highlighting this current like civil unrest that we are in SA. I've had like a whole lot of attempts in my head. I tend to play out situations before they actually happen. That kind of helps me. It's like a way of practicing. And I say practice because most of the time I never really do feel prepared to talk about politics because for a long time I've always felt like that's just something that is beyond me. And I don't know. I think it comes from just being in certain circles or within like scenarios within society, and people will be having discussions and just seeing how everything plays out when like just a normal bystander who may not even have the education or knowledge on certain things share what they feel about a certain situation, and then the backlash that they get, or a lot of people just belittling them for pretty much just like talking about what is really going down on a daily basis. Because like at its core, at its basis, that's what I would like to think that politics is, even though there's like other complex things that we don't know, which is why there's certain things like conspiracy theories and or conspiracy theorists. And it's weird, like even just thinking about the pandemic in itself. There's a lot of things that people were talking about on Twitter, having day to day just the discussions, and some people may have thought that these things that these people were talking about via the pandemic were just actual assumptions, and people don't have facts and proof to actually prove these things. And then when they unravel, it's like boom, people are surprised. So I guess maybe in a way that kind of influenced me. And I'm not saying conspiracy theories like influenced me to talk, but just the fact that hey, if I don't use my platform and not talk about this, like what kind of journalist or broadcaster would I be? Because at the end of the day, even if I may not be playing a part in terms of actions, but like I guess the main mandate for someone just being a journalist, even though maybe certain podcasters may not think that they are, is just to get the information out there and try to get the necessary information out there. And I'm not saying I have the answers, but at least if we're talking about that part of being the one to actually influence some sort of change or give people a different view of certain situations, and that's what it is. Because sometimes you might need to engage, and it's weird that I mention engagement because even me just sitting at home just pondering about this entire situation and saw the biggest word that was there was engagement. And engagement coming from where? Coming from a place of these addresses that we've been seeing for the past few weeks. I mean, we've been seeing them for a whole year, an entire year. And like a lot of people have been asking themselves this one question that Martimantor faccianzening ore le reina romozore quiralang or filagang about the pandemic, even though this is like not really related to the pandemic in itself, but I like how it just connects, right? So a year goes by, it's as if like our president in himself is like just playing games with us, because we on this one level, next day we're on this level, and then at some point in time a lot of people are now blaming us for this mess that we're in. So it gets to a point where like a lot of people start getting infuriated, because you're just telling us you are our leader, but at some point in time you're gonna have to fulfill your roles as a leader. And I feel like one of the biggest roles of being a leader also is just like being in touch with the people. You have to be connected, you have to know what's actually going down on the ground. It's one thing to just have certain people just do the work for you, go out there, find information and source information for you, but until you actually there, that's why certain people talk a whole lot about like the grass is only greener if you actually do go to the other side. It's one of those things which apply in the situation where like he has to be there to actually know what is actually going down. And that is why a lot of people have even lost interest in these addresses, because like you come there, you talk, And in as much as like a whole lot of people may feel like, okay, the recent address that he had with regards to just this problem that we're facing now, he did talk a whole lot and he did provide some solutions, but it feels like it's never going to end until he actually is there on the ground and actually listening to what these people are crying about, because it feels like it's something that's been there for the longest of times. And when I say longest of times, I'm talking about post-apartheid. We've seen different faces in terms of leaders, and all of them carry the same color skin that I have, the same pigment that I have, and they'll be using this propaganda, talking about this big utopia, that we are all supposed to achieve as a nation, but not only as a nation, but also as just like disadvantaged people. You feel me? Like, we are in a position where in the economy we're not there, we're not there yet as people, because like every year, in as much as like we may celebrate like 1 billionaire coming out of the black communities and all that type of stuff, but we're still not there, because none of this would have been happening. We wouldn't be seeing this looting happening. We wouldn't be seeing a lot of people just doing what they're doing based off just hunger. And it's weird, like, some people could talk from their own point of privilege, which I felt like, to some degree, before me getting to a point where I understood this, I also felt the same way, like, okay, I see that you guys are doing this, but you're destroying also. But like, they're destroying because sometimes you might have to destroy to actually get that point across, get that message across. And most of the times it's people that lack, So I guess my one wish, if I were to close this off, is just to have the president actually participate in terms of being there on the ground and actually listen to these people. Because like, if you do claim that Waromeha, you're all about this Tumamina, I don't even know how long this dude has actually been in power. That's how wild this whole situation is, because ever since he's been in, that's just been his slogan. But I haven't really seen him actually do things for the people. He's asking us to send him, but like, he still hasn't showed up yet, so that's how I feel. I feel like the president he has to show up. But hey, besides that, I guess we could also just get into the lighter side of things, which is the music, even on that end, things are not really looking as pretty, especially in all the music in Popo. But there's a couple of things that I felt like, would be nice to actually highlight. And the first one being the fact that Nomcebo has come out with a press release that ended up sparking a whole lot of conversation on Twitter with regards to just the things that she was talking about there. She says that she hasn't seen any paycheck, hasn't seen any pay in any form from the success of her contributions to the song that is Jerusalem. And just looking at that from my own point of view at home, just after even reading Open Mic's press statement also, it made me feel really weird, in terms of this whole situation. And I say weird, like, I'm not so sure if I believe her, because I guess like the label themselves are the ones who are, responsible for paying out, that's if, there was actual royalties which were due to her. So for them to talk about how they've been in negotiation and they haven't really found the common ground between her and her lawyers is one thing that also just, raises an eyebrow. That I understand, I get it, because like, women in themselves within the industry have been so, badly done by a whole lot of record labels and even just individuals in general, right? But like, I guess this kind of like political climate that we're in, it really just seems bad for business for you to just continue just, doing bad things onto women and all that. But like, I wouldn't be lying if I said that hasn't been a recurring theme also just in the music industry in itself. But like, a part of me feels like this might be a big ploy that might make sense in the end, in the sense of she has lawyers, right? And she contributed a whole lot, because like, if you remove her lyrics, that song in itself is just merely just a beat and it won't really hit the same, So she contributed a lot, and if it was like another world where Prince KB just served the position just being like the composer, it would have been legit just like a Nomcebo song, just like how it used to be back in the day, before producers started coming out and composers started coming out that they need to be recognized more. Most of the times back in the day, someone would source a beat from whoever, and then because it's kind of their idea for the song, they would just write Nomcebo, Jerusalem. But like I guess in the hip hop space it would be like, yeah, Nomcebo, Jerusalem, produced by, because like that whole produced by thing I think has been like a proper trend, if that's the word, in hip hop for a long time. But in house and all that, and you just see a DJ with a song and you would just assume, or even like an artist in whatever other genre just away from hip hop, just see a song just there, boom, and then you'd wonder like who composed. And like for people who don't really know what's actually happening on the ground, you just assume that, hey, is this person's song? So hey, that situation in itself just it makes me dizzy, because it really does feel like, okay, since like money's involved, it is possible that the lawyers and everyone else in Nomcebo's team might just be in this whole situation where they just trying to get some money. They're trying to get a fair cut, and sometimes trying to get a fair cut out of this whole situation, you might have to just push a narrative that might not even seem real. But who knows? You might find that even my whole view on the situation is kind of clouded, just because I kind of trust the label, because like if the label is releasing a statement saying that we've been discussing, we haven't really reached an actual agreement, then maybe that might just be what it is. And apparently there's been even other situations in the past where even Nomcebo might have been doing things behind Master KG's back, in terms of going on tour or announcing that she's doing a Jerusalem tour. And sometimes it doesn't make sense for two people who contributed so much to a song for you to just go out on an actual tour, and people are gonna see you and they'll be asking questions also, just like, yo, hey, where's Prince? No, not Prince KB. For some reason I don't know why I'm thinking about Prince KB, but where's Master KG? Because like both of you just make the song what it is today. So yeah, hey, that situation itself has me dizzy, and it doesn't even end there, because just a few days ago, if not a little over a week, Makhadzi and Monada, they also have like the same situation going on in terms of disagreements. They went into the studio and they talked about how they were going to make two songs, and I'm expressing this from Makhadzi's view and what she's expressed over several media outlets and just on social media as it is. She talked about how she was going into the studio knowing that she had this vision for a song. She brought along Prince Benza to compose the beat, and then the whole idea around this whole thing was, hey, I'm gonna have two songs, one of which I feel is gonna be mine, and then the second one Monada. And then disagreements arose to a point where now we are here today, and the Kanama song has been released without Monada, and some people are not even satisfied in terms of that, because they would have liked to actually have the song in itself feature Monada. But because Monada in himself also felt like, hey, you're recording all this music in my studio, in basic music terms, I own the mechanical rights to that song. And I guess Makhadzi thought different, because for the longest of time she's always been contributing in terms of ideas to songs, and only to have Monada in the past take advantage of that. So that's just something that saddened me, because it would have been a really big moment for all the musicians there in Limpopo, just unite. There's always like superpowers that come out of people just uniting. I mean, even just look at the situation where I was just talking about Nomcebo and Master KG. The song Jerusalem wouldn't be what it is if those two didn't actually come together and create this magic. Because like now the song's been spanning for how long? How many years has it been just being spanned in different places around the world? So it's really a crazy situation. But yeah, I guess for us to just get to a point where we can finally close this off. Another thing that was really a big highlight for me in terms of like positive news, I guess, in the music world was the fact that we have a shoe by Cassper, which is really dope. Him coming together with Lakau Sahauna of Drip to create the whole Root of Fame shoe was really dope. Even though the controversy that came after the entire release of the shoe wasn't really dope, but I guess it was justified to some degree because I tend to talk about this thing of people just being aware of their platforms, especially the power that they hold. Because I feel like the more you are aware of your power and your audience and who is really actually out there supporting your stuff, you cannot go wrong. People talk about this whole idea like, hey, music doesn't pay or whatever other industry doesn't pay. But as soon as you identify who your big supporters are, that's where you have the whole game. And I think that's just something that Cassper really did well with the shoe, because like he wouldn't be able to sell 5,000 shoes or 5,000 units of those shoes if he didn't have that support. And as much as you may not like the shoe, you don't take the shoe, it's not your type of shoe, or Ronana Setla China, of which it doesn't, because like there was a whole lot of rumors like people like the shoe comes from China. How would it come from China when these dudes basically even talked on the whole shoe release about how the shoe in itself was manufactured fully 100% in South Africa? And if you were to see this video that went around on social media of Mihlali on her Insta story, pretty much just explaining the shoe, you would see that there's a whole lot of detail that came into that shoe for it to be comfortable, for it to be light the way that it is, design wise and all that type of stuff. It may look basic to you, but I guess maybe to other individuals it looks really dope. And for me, I'm really into that type of thing, like knowing the process of like how a shoe came to be. But I guess that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the backlash that the shoe got from the fans. The people who were actually purchasing the shoe, they felt that, hey, we would like to think that at least you knew who your supporters are, and it is us. And we find it weird that, okay, you're pushing these shoes via Mihlali, whereas we are also feeling like we are more than qualified to be getting pictures by you and personal deliveries. And I guess like if we were talking about capacity and time involved in making that whole process in itself happen, it's tricky. Like Cassper can go to a whole list of 5,000 people, but for it to be sentimental and for it to connect with a whole lot of people, would have been nice to actually see him at least go to at least 500 people or maybe 100 people, door to door, pull up on them, sign the shoe if he had to, and do that. But I guess maybe that's why even he felt bad when he couldn't have the actual launch the way that he wanted to have it, because it ended up being like a digital reveal as opposed to what he had planned to have, like in-store signings and that type of stuff. But that breeded that conversation like, yo, we would have liked to just be within your vicinity so that we could also too be inspired, that we know we can go get it too. Because like that's pretty much why I think people ride with Cassper so much, because he's given so much people that inspiration to feel like they could do a whole lot of things. I remember even getting to a discussion with a friend and he was like, yo, I get you talking about this whole idea like Cassper might have been the seed that sparked people to believe again that they can sell music, but Pitchback Afro was already selling records before going double platinum and all that type of stuff, and he was a hip-hop act, even though then when I was a kid I didn't really even understand what he was doing in terms of music. I didn't think Pitchback Afro was an actual hip-hop artist, but years later when I had that discussion with my friend, I was like, yo, this makes sense actually. Pitch Black was that dude. So I guess this is where we're going to leave it off today. I go with the name of Danny Pacheco. This has been really nice, and this has been the Big T Debate. Peace.